Hello. My name is S.K. Williams, and I have returned at the turn of the tide. Or at the very least, I have returned at the turn of the cultural tide. I'm not entirely convinced that the Tube of You has completely amended itself. For those who don't know, I have been locked out of my Gaggle account for the past 7 months. I was having problems for about a year, maybe a year and a half, with overt censor on the ship. And I've had my channel threatened with unaliving. And while my channel wasn't removed to the ether, I couldn't get back into it. However, I have finally had it reinstated, and I've heard from various different sources that some of the policies on the Tube of You and that Gaggle and Alphabet are using have been lightened. I don't know if this is true or not, but certain things that I listen to, albeit often on places that are not here, like The Remnant with Michael Matt, have had their monetization returned after a few years, and they have finally gotten their silver plaque showing that they had 100,000 subscribers, even though they have 300,000, and they should have gotten it a long time ago. So, I am reluctantly optimistic that I will have greater free speech. For this, my initial video, I'm not going to do the cartoonish over-the-top voice that I've been doing to evade Al Gore and his rhythm. I will continue to use euphemisms because I have to maintain my own safety in this environment. But I found that last week, I was now able to get back into my account and as such, I look forward to producing videos that hopefully will go up without angering Al Gore and his rhythm. But I don't intend complete capitulation. However, I didn't make this video until a week after. And that's because I wanted to test the commenting system first. Before I was locked out of my account, I had trouble posting comments on the Tube of You. My comments would vanish. No one would see them. I would have to rewrite them with different creative words or break them up into separate posts, and even then sometimes they'll vanish, or worse, they'll vanish when I'm only part over. And it gets annoying, it really does, especially when I have to use creative spellings or euphemisms in order to possibly get it through. Approximately 50% of my posts go through. Apparently, the intelligent synthetica that runs and monitors all of the communications on the Tube of You has me on the naughty list, and it doesn't forget, and I am still on the naughty list. which is bizarre because I'm actually far less offensive than a lot of people who are free to say whatever they want. Granted, most of those people are progressives and they hold secular, not religious views and all that, the views that are aligned with and appreciated by our dear and gracious hosts. And that is probably a bias that is inherently built into Al Gore and his rhythm. But it is frustrating. And it does give me pause. You see, the company doesn't want to admit that it's overtly removing people's speech and discriminating against them purely for their political or religious views. That is what they're doing, but they don't want to admit it. So, in general, the larger your channel is, the less punishment it will receive. Though it will still be punished. They will stop recommending your videos, even to your own subscribers. They will unsubscribe people from your channels. They will manipulate Al Gore's controls so that you don't show up in feeds for people that are curious, or that you're way lower on a search than you should be. Tricks like that. And exactly how egregious this will be dependent upon how many views you normally get and how many subscribers. And I don't know the details of exactly how it works. But I've already figured out that their primary goal is to silence the message of their opposition, without seeming like they're silencing them or being unfair. It's far easier to do that with a smaller channel than with a large one. And my channel is small. It doesn't have that many subscribers. And I'm not saying that I'm the greatest YouTuber in the world, that I should have more, even if things were going naturally. But I do know I don't have a chance of growing here very much, at least not a good chance, unless something happens, like I slip a video past and the machine makes a mistake and recommends it because it thinks it's something else, or someone else begins to recommend me. And it's fairly obvious that they're doing this at this point. People are noticing it. People on the left don't want to admit it. I've spoken to one of those atheist who hates religion and is driven by reason already, and he's saying nothing happened to me. I'm just some idiot who forgot my password or something. They have their own mythology. And in their mythology, the right-wing conservative Christians, or should I say, right-wing Christian conservatives, are the ones that are authoritarian and taking away people's rights, and progressives are the ones standing up for freedom, even for their opposition, and they're never going to admit that it works the other way around, but it does. In fact, it almost always does. The left is almost always the ones that promote violence. And they'll cherry-pick examples like the 6th of January, ooh. But cities have burned for years due to riots coming from the left. And I didn't used to be all that political. I'm kind of being forced to be now. Because I don't easily fit into the modern, especially American conservative views. I'm not MAGA. But as far as they're concerned, I am MAGA. I'm wearing a red hat that says MAGA. I support Trump. I think of Trump as the new Messiah. Because disagreeing with them leads you to that. It's becoming obvious that this is happening, though, and fewer and fewer people are listening to the voices on the left and are defecting from it, which is why they ramped it up to prevent that from happening. We have the person who headed Gaggle, who headed the Tuba of You, this woman whose name I cannot name for fear of Al Gore striking me down with his mighty hand. But she said in an interview where they were discussing Gaggle possibly being a monopoly and needing to be cut up, that they can't cut it up because they would be needed to help prevent another Trump event. Gaggle has an agenda, and that agenda will deny people their basic rights and freedoms, because they do discriminate against people whose voices they consider right-wing, conservatives, and they will promote the progressive causes. Even in our cultural climate, where there's too much pushback and they're beginning to pull back a little, they still want to control the narrative, and they still want to use technology to do it. They don't want the already existing conservative voices that have a larger audience to get larger, so they don't recommend them. And they will punish you to a greater degree the smaller your channel is, because they think they can get away with it. I've heard that, especially after the election, that they've lightened up on the restrictions. I don't know if this is true or not. I do know that this is one of the rare videos that I've made for the Tuba View, specifically, that I intend to load on my other video platforms like Ramble and the Shoot of Bit, simply to archive it, because I don't have a guarantee that it'll go up. I don't have a guarantee that I'll be allowed to keep it up without a strike. I don't know the consequences of even loading this video that's critical of the regime. But I do know this. I have my best luck at getting views on the Shoot of Bit. I was away from that site for a long time, and I don't get the views I used to, but I still get more there than anywhere else. And I only have two places that I go besides the Tuba View, and the other is Ramble. I want to remember my Daily Motion account, but I haven't remembered its password yet. I might just create another one. But for right now, that's all I have. Ramble, I've noticed I don't get that many views. And a lot of people have that problem. You can't get noticed on Ramble. I don't know what it is about it. It might just be that it has a way smaller user base. It may be that the recommended system needs to be improved, maybe both, maybe something else. But I've noticed that a lot of creators on Ramble have a hard time getting a following, and I'm no exception. My views there are not very good. My views on the Shoot a Bit are better. And for any people who have some preconceived notion, especially if you're on the left, about the Shoot a Bit being a right-wing Nahashi site, and that must prove that if I'm posting there, I must be a Nuhashi. Keep in mind, the only reason I really post there is because I'm allowed liberty of word, which I'm not allowed here. I can't even use the more common expression that begins with F, the middle word O, and the last word S here, without risking the ire of Al Gore. Hence I say liberty of word. I'm not in any way a racialist or a factist. But I can say what I want out of the chute of bit, which recently had to leave the UK because they are destroying free speech in the UK. This is the natural end of progressivism. And I will be doing a video on that, but I won't be posting that video here. I will have to post it on Ramble. I will advertise it here. Which brings me to what I intend on doing now that I'm back on the tube of you. I intend on creating 2 more accounts. Maybe 3. Maybe 1 just to comment on things, because it's not worth risking your primary accounts. I intend on restarting the Bishop's Bible Project for the 3rd time because I wasn't able to load the videos here. To be fair, I also fell behind on Ramble, which is the other place I was hosting the Bishop's Bible, though for reasons that weren't related to the ones here. And if you visit my channel on Ramble, which was supposed to be exactly the same as here, but I accidentally hit the wrong key while typing out my own name, so I made a stupid mistake. It has a Y in it. It's SKWYLLS, Squills. But if you go over there, you will see the book of Exodus is complete. And I have all of the Psalms with the exception of the ones for the weeks to come from the Great Bible. I was releasing 1 Psalm a week from them. So I do have more of the Bishop's Bible on Ramble than I have here. But I did have to stop because of situations in my life, which wasn't really related. And it's perhaps for the best. I am going to resume the Bishop's Bible next year, following the same pattern. 6 days a week, as far as the Old Testament is concerned. I will release 3 chapters a day for 6 days a week. This would mean that there would be 18 chapters a week. And I will release a psalm from the Great Bible Psalms once a week on Saturday for the entirety of 2026. But I won't be releasing them on this channel anymore. I intend on creating a channel specifically to host the Bishop's Bible. You can still, of course, watch them on Ramble. I don't know if I'll create another channel or another account for that. I do intend on restarting it over there as well, but being what it is, this is how it's going to be from now on. The Bishop's Bible Project is divided into 3 parts, besides just the Old Testament, the Apocrypha, and the New Testament. It's divided into the actual Bishop's Bible, supplementary material, and complementary material. Supplementary material are texts that are considered part of the Bible in some way. but that are not part of the Bishop's Bible. The Bishop's Bible, following the, at the time, Protestant tradition from the Church of England, included the apocryphal books that Catholics call Deuterocanon. But it doesn't include all of the books that the Eastern Orthodox use, for example, or other churches. And I consider those, as well as things like the introductions to the project and credits that I do for making the Bible and explanations, supplemental. Not that I want to put my own words where I introduce the project and introduce the Old Testament and introduce various things and explain things and do credits on the same level as sacred scripture, even from the apocryphal scriptures, but it is considered part of the Bible. If you got a printed copy of it, that would be in there as well. And so historical notes on the translation and things will be considered supplemental. Complementary material are materials that also include certain secondary historical information or introductions, but is mainly reserved for texts that are either not considered scripture by anyone, or at the very least are considered such a minority that you would ordinarily not find them in a project like this at all. And for works that are not part of the Bible at all. This will especially be apparent in the Apocrypha and the New Testament, because they're so much shorter than the Old Testament, especially the New Testament, where I intend on releasing additional works as a complement to the Bishop's Bible, but that are independent of the Bishop's Bible and not presented as part of the Bishop's Bible. This is done both for educational purposes and so that it's less imbalanced. Because when it comes to the New Testament, I'm only going to be releasing one chapter a day. And the reason I'm only releasing one chapter a day is because it is shorter, and I would run out of material if I did 3 chapters a day, but I want 3 videos a day. So I will be releasing additional materials with that. I won't tell you what they are. I want there to be some surprises in the project. But I am thinking about releasing the Bishop's Bible on its own channel. And as I speak, I'm continuing to record the audios and animate the Bishop's Bible. And I am farther along in it, even than what you could see on Ramble. But if you go to my Ramble channel, you can see the books of Genesis and Exodus both completed. Which brings you back to this channel. This channel and this username are under very heavy scrutiny from Al Gore, who zealously guards his rhythm. Given that it is Intelligence Synthetica that's doing this, it may figure out through my tone of voice or the way I speak or my animation style that it's the same person and put the same restrictions on me when I create something later. And I want to test that. But I am hoping to have greater freedom, at least for a little while, when I create a new channel. But I will still be uploading videos to this. Some commentary, some things light, a lot of things using coded language. But a lot of what I'm going to be spending my time with this channel on is advertising what I'm releasing on Ramble, where I have greater free speech, or what I'm releasing on the Shoot of Bit, because I just don't have the freedom here. And I know the two of you won't be promoting me. Some of the videos, I will begin talking about the topic, and then I'll tell you I go into greater detail on another location. And on others, it'll just be a straight advertisement, where I tell you, I've done a video on this topic. It's on my other site. Go to it. And I might, on a few occasions, make a video for here where I just make a video where it is complete and self-contained. If it's a non-controversial subject as far as the two of you is concerned, or gaggle is concerned, or alphabet is concerned. But I don't see that at present as a viable option. I don't have much else to say, though. This is my glorious, inglorious, melancholic return to the two of you. But do keep in mind, as depressed and defeated as I sound, I may be bloodied, but I am unbowed. And I do intend, in my own inimicable way, to fight this cruel injustice. I shall nevertheless endeavor to put out some content and hopefully direct you to other content elsewhere. Until then, I haven't much else to say, so I shall take my leave of you now. Thank you, God bless, and goodbye.